All right, I'm going to show you how to import data into SalesPad. So what you do is you click this little folder icon, you go down to Setup and Utilities, and you click Import Manager. Now you won't see this if you don't have permission to it, so you need to make sure you are authorized to do this. So once you open that up, you'll get this area where we're going to add a new one. We're just going to call it Lead Import. Okay? Import. Okay? So from here, we're now going to select the table that we want to import it into. And I'm going to use prospects for this example. Now I'm going to add the required fields. So prospect name is a required field. So I'm going to now grab an Excel sheet of the data that I want to import. And first we're going to clean it up a little bit, okay? So I have company, address, city, state, zip, phone, and email, okay? So first we're going to save it into a format that we can import it in. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, select PC. I'm going to select a comma CSV right here, this one right here, and select Save it back to the desktop and save. So it'll prompt you, do you want to keep using this format? The answer is yes. So now I have two. I have the original and the CSV. So if I close the original, you'll see it has like email addresses highlighted, the tops, whatever. CSV doesn't keep that information. It just keeps text only. So we're going to open that up, and now we're going to be working with a text-only sheet, like you see here. Okay, so now we need to make the sheet match. So I'm going to make the sheet match. So the first thing, we have to have, usually there's required fields that have to be done in order to import. And one of the required fields is prospect name. So I'm going to grab what the prospect name would be on this sheet, and it's company. So I'm going to grab this title company. I'm going to paste it in. Okay, and then I'm going to add more fields to map. So the next field I want to map is an address. So I want to go to contact address. Okay, and then in here, we're just going to grab the same exact information and paste it in. And then we're going to add the next one. Add. Next is city. It's over here. I can just type it. It has to match exactly, but next is contact state. Contact state. And just state. It's all capitals. Next we got zip. Contact zip. Zip. Phone. Add. Contact phone number. Phone 1. Obviously you could have more than one because there's 3 in the system. And email is the last one. Add. We're going to do email address. Email address. Okay? And email. Now you can only import what there are fields for. And in a prospect, if we go over to prospect search, you can see that if I was to add a new prospect, that there are more information that we can import. There's the name, class, source, sales rep, territory ID. So if I want to put a class or say a source on it, so like FabTech, we would need to create that in this sheet. So over here, let's say all these leads came from FabTech or a show. I would need to create a new column for it, and I would call it source, okay? Just because it's capital everywhere else, I'm just going to keep it the same, okay? Source. From here, I'm going to type in it exactly as I see here, FabTech, okay? So I'm going to come back over to here, type in Fab Tech. If the F is capitalized, then the F has to be capitalized. If it's not exactly the same, you'll actually create a new record down here at the bottom. We don't want to create a new one. We want to use the one that already exists. So now, let's say all these leads were from FabTech. We'd paste these all in. Okay, so all the way down to the bottom kind of thing, okay? Like so. So now they're all from FabTech. But let's say this one happens to be from, say, Google. And Google's all lowercase. So I'm going to come into here and type in Google. Okay. Now, this sheet has a lot of data, and I don't want to import all that data because it's for sample. So I'm going to go down, and I'm actually going to remove all this out of my sheet because for this demo, I really don't want to import all these into the system. So I'm just going to remove them except for a couple. Okay. So now we have 4, and you can see 3 of them don't have email addresses. We have source. So let's say we want to add a sales rep. So let's use let's use house. Okay, so or some easy. Yeah, let's do house. Okay, so we're going to go back to our mapping, which is here, and I'm going to add the source first because we added that into our sheet. Contact source. All right, sorry, I was in the middle of recording this video and I got interrupted, so I had to pause it and I came back. So hopefully I pick up where I left off. I believe we were adding the source. So we come into here and we find prospect source. There we go. So over here, we're going to grab the source field that I just created and paste it in. I'm going to save it just so I don't lose my work. And then I'm going to add, let's also add salesperson. That's where we were. We were adding a salesperson. So I'm just going to use Ron B for this example. So we're going to go back over and do salesperson. Like I said, this title doesn't really matter what it says as long as this is imported in exactly how it is in the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click this drop down and find prospect salesperson ID, like that. And then over here, we need to match it exactly how it is over here, and it is capital R-O-N-B. So over here, we're going to do R-O-N-B. R-O-N-B. And if we wanted a different salesman, you could, obviously use a different person. We'll do house. H-O-U-S-E. Once again, these have to be exact. H-O-U-S-E. Also, something to keep in mind is that spaces are characters. So if I have house here and the cursor's blinking next to it, like right here, if I do a space just like that, it actually counts as a character. And I doubt over here we have a space. So we need to make sure that there's no spaces at the end. Okay. So notice we don't have emails for these. That's okay. So we should have everything mapped up that we want to import for this. You could add more or less depending on what fields are available. So you can only add what's available. So if it's not in this list, you can't exactly import it, okay? So, oops, I just want to remove this one row because we're going to save it. Now we're going to run the report, okay? If you remember back when we first set this up, we had these 2 sample reports, and one was the XLS and one's the CSV. The CSV is the one we're going to work with. So I'm going to make sure I save it. And every time you save, it's going to say some features in your workbook might not be able. You just click, do you want to keep the format? Yes. Once it's saved, we're going to try and run the import. And it's not going to work. I know that, but I'm going to show you what happens. If I hit CSV, it says canceled, and then it's going to tell me why. It says the process can't be happening because it is being used. It's because that file is already opened and being used by Excel. So I actually have to close the file It says, do I want to save? Yes. And then it's going to say, it's going to open up, prompt you for it. Do you want to replace the file? Yes. And it says, do you want to keep the format? Yes. Okay. So now we're going to try it again. Run. So remember, we're selected here. So if you have more than one, before we do this, if I had more than one import here, I'd need to make sure I was selected on the row of the import that I want and select run. Once I do that, I select the CSV sample that we did and see it finished. It worked this time. So now if I hit OK, it'll say finish successfully loaded 4 of 4 rows. So we actually loaded those 4 customers. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to go back to prospect search, and I'm just going to search all and look. Let me open back up our sample. See here, let me make this big, and we'll open up this. Okay, so metal, we got metal, okay, so if we go into each one, you can see it imported the email address, whatever. We didn't, however, add all the information that we need because we didn't add a contact name or last name, but we did get their address. So that might be something you need to modify or update in your sheet. Like technically you would, like if I wanted to add a contact name, here I don't have a person's name, so I would insert a row and put, first name, probably capitalize it just so it matches, name, and then put, Joe, Jeff, but if we didn't have those names, we don't have those names. So it's just the way it is. Or you could probably import the company name again. Okay, if you didn't have the person's name, you might want to import it as the first name, and then there would at least be a name in here in the contact. You can see that we imported the source fab tech, which was in this field here, and the salesperson, Ron. See? Ron. It all imported correctly. So everything that we had in our spreadsheet imported. Now, you can import more information, less information, whatever you want, and then you can obviously modify it. So if I double click this row, it should open it up and see then I could actually enter the information, but there is how we import it. So this sample was using prospects. Keep in mind that you can import many things. So I'll show you everything you can import. We'll just do test. Here again, this is everything you can import. You can import contacts, which we just did, sort of, because prospects are tied to contacts. Customer price, inventory, inventory by location, item list price, item master list, everything you see in here. You can, vendor item, you can import. Okay? So if it's not in that list, we can't import it. Not this way. There's other ways, but not this way. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and that concludes this video.